Said something about probe and Darren ran. Good morning, guys. This morning I'm out here with Darren Goebel from AGCO. Darren, you're an agronomist at AGCO, is that right?
I am, okay. Yeah.
So this morning we're going to walk the crop tour plot, kind of, I think 2 weeks after we planted it now, kind of see how our stand looks, kind of see what we're seeing with the different variations of planting settings we had, and should be pretty interesting.
All right, cool. Maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you know, we're seeing what we typically see here in the 1-inch plot, Brian. You know, some of this shallow planting, a lot of people like to plant kind of shallow to get corn up quickly in the spring. And when you look at it, and you just look at it for, you know, face value, it looks fine. You know, you got a good stand here. But what we do see is a lot more non-uniformity. So, you know, you can see some smaller plants next to bigger plants. And, you know, taking this one, for example, we're sitting here at 1, 2, 3 leaf collars. And right next to him is one at 1, 2, 3, 4 leaf collars. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4 leaf collars. And what we typically see is if we're 1 leaf collar behind, we'll typically get about a half an ear at harvest time. If we're 2 leaf collars behind, we typically won't get any ear, and so then that ends up just being a weed. And so planting depth's really super important, and there's a lot of things that we do in the planter to make sure that we get uniform planting depth. In our studies over, I guess, 4 years, we found about 14 bushel difference between 1-inch planting depth and 1.5-inch planting depth.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's a big deal.
That's where Downforce really starts to pay for itself, is getting that consistent depth then.
That's exactly right, and so that's why we actually do our Downforce study or trials here, is so that we can show the effect of Downforce on getting a good consistent planting depth. Another thing, I know you ran the Momentum planter this year.
Yep.
The reason we have that contouring toolbar is so that we make sure that we always give every row unit the very best chance to exactly get the seed where it belongs, and that we at least at a minimum get that 1.5 inches, and then planting into moisture, of course.
Right. With the crop tour tests, have you seen speed tube being a benefactor not only for the speed but just for the more accurate singulation, just because you're able to drop that basically hand drop that seed into the furrow versus it bouncing through a seed tube?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, we really see picket stands with the speed tube. It does a really nice job of singulating and delivering it right to the bottom of the furrow for sure.
Okay.
And you know, it seems like every year we're having more and more trouble getting our crop planted on time, and so
Correct.
If we can catch another gear and get an extra field in before the rain, that's always a really good thing. And then when we can come back and see the same kind of stand as we would have had with 5 miles an hour, it's really great. I was all through Illinois yesterday, and those guys over there are really struggling to get their corn in the ground still. There's even anhydrous going on.
Oh.
And this is June 4th or 5th, yeah.
June 4th, yeah. Okay, so here we're walking. Is this the 3-inch plot or the
3.5?
3.5, okay.
So I'm between the 3-inch and the 3.5.
Okay. Now, had it turned dry instead of, you know, raining every 5 days, would this have performed better than the inch plot, or would this kind of struggled also to get up out of the ground?
So pretty much any agronomist out there would say, hey, you can plant corn all the way down to 4 inches, and you know, you can. What we typically as agronomists will say is, you know, plant into moisture, because getting uniform moisture into that seed is super important. What we've noticed over 4 years of crop tour plots, really you don't want to go much deeper than 3 inches, because that corn just really starts to struggle when you get to 3.5.
Right.
Yeah, to get it up out of the ground. And it doesn't really matter. We've seen it on all kinds of soil types. You know, maybe a sandy soil, you wouldn't see that so much, but more of the silt loams and clay soils like you've got here. This more of a silt loam. It struggles a little bit. You can see some plants that kind of came up late, kind of barely got up out of the ground. You can see that one barely got up out of the ground. You know, there's some missing. I bet if we dig, we'll find a kernel here
that just didn't quite make it.
That just didn't make it.
So you guys, I'm not the only one with a dull pocket knife.
Yeah, there he is. There's the carcass of him. Died, part of him.
Yep, there's our hopes and dreams.
There's another one. Didn't quite make it. Yeah, sorry about that, Brian. We really ruined things for you in this plot.
Yeah.
But no, it's really cool that to do this kind of research, because I think there's not very many people doing it, and it's interesting to see it, and to see it all over the world, and corn doing the same thing pretty much all over the world.
Right. If you guys think back to when we were planning this plot, I can't remember the name of the video, but it was a couple weeks ago. One of the things that we did at the planter was put plates in it that were intentionally making bad singulation to produce skips and doubles. So we're just gonna, this is the part of the plot we're in now. We're just gonna walk through it, and we'll show one of those skips and doubles. And here's a double, prime example of a double right here.
Yeah, and then we've got a skip here. Yeah, so the reason we do that with those goof plates, the way we do it, is we want to make sure we maintain the exact same population. So we're just saying, what's the effect of a misplaced seed? It should have been here, but instead he's here right next to his neighbor, and we're probably not even getting quite the doubling effect. You know, a normal double would actually be sitting right on top of one another, because typically that's getting picked up by that seed plate, and it's carrying on the same seed cell. We're actually putting two seed cells very close together.
Right.
What we've found in these tests is about a 5 bushel difference between this and good singulation, but keeping in mind that we don't put goof plates in every row. And so when you look across the whole planter, going from maybe a 99% singulation down to 93% singulation.
Because those goof plates are simulating 93 then?
Yeah,
okay.
Simulating 93%. And so it works out in our trials to about a bushel for every percent loss of singulation.
Okay. Again,
that's not taking into account in a normal planter where we've got a skip, you lose population. So we're still keeping the population there, we're just misplacing the seeds.
Right, okay.
So I think that's a more important way to look at it, because that really takes into account the factor of doubles and skips.
So this side over here is our heavy downforce, or is it, or I can't remember.
This is the light.
Okay. So when we talk about downforce, what we're heavy versus light, we're talking about simulating a light downforce. Basically, if you still had a spring pressured planter, it'd kind of be simulating if your springs were worn out. We're talking about the amount of force pushing down on a row unit to maintain its planting depth. So over here we have a light trial, and over here we have a heavy trial. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see that, and kind of get a feel for, you know, how much is downforce paying off for us year to year. So over here on this corner, this is our standard downforce, correct?
Yeah.
And over here is our heavy downforce, right?
That's right. Okay,
so what are we seeing here? Looks like we have a couple different root systems.
Yeah, I mean, we just dug these up, and I didn't know what to really expect, but what we're seeing here is the nodal root system here versus the seedling root system here. And this nodal root system, you can see all of these roots are kind of spreading out like they should, going out after nutrients and water, versus this root system, which was in the heavy. You can see here that you've got two roots that are kind of following the seed trench, and then these two roots are going pretty straight down because they had a lot of pressure from those gauge wheels on either side.
So we just had more sidewall compaction with the...
That's right.
With the heavy downforce.
That's right. And that's what you never really see, these nuances, unless you're able to compare side by side. And when we come back this summer, we should be able to dig this up and see some pretty big dramatic differences later in the summer.
Yield wise, if we still have a perfect growing season as far as uniform rains, no huge drought stress, is there really going to be much yield difference though?
No, probably not. So it's been interesting in our research. We average about 2 bushels difference, heavy downforce versus auto downforce. Where
Okay.
we really see the big difference is going from too little downforce to auto.
Right.
And then the other thing that's really important is there's so much variation in what kind of downforce you need on your planter to get everything just perfect, to get even emergence, you know, to get that seed at the right depth, whether it's your tillage system, changes in soil types. We've even seen differences in planting depths need different downforce amounts. And then even like wings versus the center of the planter. So each individual row unit can put the exact amount of downforce so that we get the perfect conditions for that plant.
But really, on the heavy versus the light downforce, you could not really see any difference from here, but it is pretty cool to walk out there, dig down, and you really can see the difference in the root systems. Hey Darren, on the heavy versus the light down, or the standard downforce, with that heavy having a more straight root structure versus more spread out like the standard, is that going to be more susceptible to wind damage?
Yeah, that's a really good point. We had a plot up in Minnesota probably 3 years ago, and the heavy plot, it all laid down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it will be interesting, especially when we get into October, like right before harvest. It seems like we always have a big storm blow through. It will be interesting to see if I come out here one day and the rest of the field's standing pretty and the 8 rows of heavy downforce are laying
Let's
over.
hope not. Yeah. Let's hope not.
So right here we've got a compaction probe, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It automatically records compaction down, and we're taking down to 15 inches.
Okay.
Every inch, how much pressure.
Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do here is get our compaction where the planter basically wasn't traveling with the carriage wheel versus right here is a planter track. So it should be pretty interesting to see. If you know much about the Momentum, one of the big selling points of it is its tire inflation system, something I was really impressed by. So it'll be pretty interesting to see the actual real world results 2 weeks later. So this should be, I'm curious. Now we're going to repeat this process 30 times, something like that, 15 on each side, or 45.
45 in every plot times 6 plots.
So Darren was just telling me he's compiling all this information into a spreadsheet, and if you guys are interested, I will put that at the end of the video. So if you want to see that, just hit pause at the end. One thing we wanted to check out was the strip till field right beside the crop tour plot. I had part of it that was strip till and part of it that wasn't, and walking out here, compaction wise, like in the furrow, it's a nice mellow ground. The corn is just starting to get down to the 28. This field was strip tilled at 6 inches deep versus 8. We did that because it was getting late. We had lots of rain coming, and we wanted to get through it a little quicker, and we didn't think we'd get burnt. And it seems like it's not really hurting us any.
Yeah, it's nice. It's looking really good. Got a nice root system.
Now, do you think with strip till we're going to have issues with it going out the root system, or we just have soft soil straight down?
It'll go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing I just didn't know the answer to, and that's kind of.
Yeah, it'll go out, but as soon as those roots hit that nitrogen fertilizer, they're gonna blow up. They're gonna proliferate, and it'll actually help them to go out and help them go out deep.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really good, Brian.
Yeah, unfortunately our side-by-side plot, it was flooded. I think part of it survived and part of it didn't. Well, Darren, it's fun walking these plots with you. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to coming back and harvest them, or at least seeing them in August.
Yeah, me too.
Seeing the product of them. But like we said, that compaction data, we'll put that at the end of this video. And hey, it was good meeting you, and thanks for coming out.
Nice meeting you.
Hey guys, I hope you found this video as interesting as I did. One quick announcement before we go. Starting this week, Farm Focus will be handling our merchandise sales. So if you're interested in getting any Brown Farms or Brian's Farming Videos merchandise, head over to Farm Focus's website. You can find our merchandise in their store tab. Also, you can still get it at our website. It will just redirect you to Farm Focus's website. But thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one. Not trying to drop any hints, but I'm going after something tomorrow.